A big thank you to all my friends at Washington Federal for sponsoring Zero to Social in 90 minutes. Business owners, call Washington Federal. I bet they can save you money on your credit card processing.
ROI, we've got to talk about it before we get to your questions. Return on investment. I prefer using ROE, which is not as quantifiable. It's called relationships ought to be enough. But for some reason, there are people in business who actually think you need to be able to show that this has an actual value. We have a lot of questions related to that. Let's talk ROI. Shauna, can you prove that all of this stuff we're talking about really makes any difference in a business's life?
Well, so I love this question because so many gurus try to tell you that there's so many things that I'm not even gonna repeat them, but I feel like we've been talking about this question for so long now in social, and one of the things that I had to do at every company that I've worked at is figure out what are the goals overall. So what are the goals with communication? What are the goals with marketing? What are the goals with the company? And then figure out how this is just one more channel that fits in with that. So that determines then what we're measuring. And at Nordstrom, we measured engagement first. That was always the first thing that we looked at. So when we're sharing updates, are people liking them? Are they retweeting them? Are they resharing them? And then what's the reach of everyone who was resharing those updates? So then we immediately know what messages worked and which ones didn't. And that actually then informed how we did the catalog and many of the other things on the business side. So not just is it working on social, but is it working for the entire business? And then after that was sales. So we were always looking at sales, but that never drove the message or what we were sharing. And that was actually, it's always an internal battle because sales is the first thing that how much are we making from sharing all the product updates that we're sharing. So that's always a tough thing internally to talk the leadership out of sales being the number one thing that we need to measure, it's much easier today. When we were starting out, it was like, prove to me why we should be doing this. But once you can kind of see the feedback, and this scorecard that we shared at Nordstrom helped so much, where you could see verbatim what people were saying, the feedback that we were receiving about the overall business and what we were going to do about that, the areas of opportunity, and then engagement and sales.
That scorecard you're talking about, do people have access to that kind of tool for their own business?
There's a lot of different platforms right now that help you measure and get some of those different metrics. I didn't find one that I just wanted it to be one sheet, really easy, that I could send out to the entire company and the entire leadership team. So I created my own, and we input the metrics, but we got them from using about 3 or 4 different social analytics platforms. You don't need to use that many, and you can boil it down to 1 or 2, so you're just tracking what people are saying. But I didn't find one that did everything that I wanted it to.
King 5 Seattle. Can you prove that because of all that you do on social media, you have higher TV ratings, which is really what it's about in your business, to bring in the advertising, right? Prove it.
I have to ask 2 people over at that table. Can I?
Yes. Come on up, Mark.
Well, Mark is our director of digital media, and Jessica sitting next to him is our director of business development. And we work a lot on all kinds of platforms and the ROI on all kinds of platforms. Can I prove? There's no causation, but we have done some research on a correlation between our engagement on our Facebook page and increased ratings for our 11 o'clock news. It was a corporate right initiative in which we used an outside firm, and it was so granular that we even were told exactly what time we needed to post on our Facebook page about a story that was coming up later that night to get the optimum reach on as far as bringing people in to watch our 11 o'clock news. And this was a really good exercise across departments because we worked with our creative services marketing department. And I think we've all touched on here, it wasn't, watch us at 11. It was like, here's a story we're working on, we're drawing the people into the story, here's some information, and sort of at the very end, and you can hear more. It wasn't even really hear more. It was kind of a throwaway line that we were going to do the story at 11. We found this worked really well with a couple of our franchises. Get Jesse. I don't know how many people know who that is. Probably every
Jesse
single
Jones,
just
King 5
like
News.
yeah, Jesse Jones, King 5 Investigators. So we were able to sort of see that. But on top of that, it's really easy to see ROI as far as referral traffic to our website. We have extensive analytics that show that Facebook is the number 3 referral to our website. There are days when it beats Google, just because so many people are getting their news through social media. So yeah, we can show that easily. I just have one thing to say about ROI, which I think everybody in this room is in some type of customer service business, and you know how important word of mouth is. I have this sort of idol. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk. Look him up on the internet. You'll find him right away. He calls word of mouth is now world of mouth. It's sort of like Aaron's experience with Delta. I mean, if Aaron could have had that entire conversation in public, and we could have seen everything that was going on. And you know what? That customer service experience could have, persuaded some of us that maybe we weren't real keen on Delta. So, I mean, basically, that's what it's meant by word of mouth. But as part of that, Gary Vaynerchuk, you can follow him on Twitter, Gary V. And if, he responds to a lot of people. He has a line where he says, "What is the ROI of your mom?" I mean, seriously, it's like using traditional metrics to measure an untraditional way of communicating, but it's really not untraditional because it's still one-on-one. It's still, word of mouth. It's still having a conversation. So just kind of keep that in mind if someone says, "What's the ROI of what you're doing?"
I like that. It's kind of like the old thing in advertising. Half my advertising works, half of it doesn't. Problem is I don't know which half that is. Any final thoughts, Aaron, on ROI before we move on to questions?
We're just, numbers for the CEO are important. So figure out how to get those numbers. There's lots of free tools out there. Make it work for yourselves and figure out whether it's Google Analytics or Simply Measured or whatever those simple tools are. But the biggest thing is if you're doing it, you'll see the value in it. And if you're not doing it, and you don't have the time for it because that's your excuse all the time, don't get into it. Just continue down the street and get into it. Just across the board.
We're going to get to some questions, but first I want to thank our sponsors for this event. My beloved MyNorthwest.com and James Bottorff and his crew. It was their idea to do this. Thank you, James. Cairo Radio, my other home. I want to thank Bill Leonard and his crew, and I also want to thank Washington Federal for sponsoring this event. They have been a great supporter of mine. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you the mic.
Right. Well, thank you. My name is Chandler Huckle. I'm the small business banking manager for Washington Federal, and Kathy Cooper's here with me, who heads marketing communications. We're really pleased to be able to sponsor something like this, and we're taking away a lot of things as well. So thank you, Linda and MyNorthwest.com for doing it. But we heard a number of things here today that getting yourself out online and having a social presence is really important, and we've seen it really recently with some acquisitions that we've done, and really the importance of being accessible to the clients that you either have, want to keep, or want to have is incredibly important, and we've been able to answer a lot of questions, diffuse situations, and really keep a lot of folks around that we may not have known about if we weren't on Twitter and Facebook. So. Washington Federal, a little bit about us. We've been in your community here since 1917, have a full range of products and services, but to not go taboo and get into selling something while I'm standing up here, we want to make sure that we are introducing ourselves, meeting you, having a relationship with you in person or online. And so on Twitter, we are at WAFED, and you can look us up on Facebook at Washington Federal.
Thank you very much. See how much he learned? He didn't pitch his products. Good job. We have about 15 minutes left. If you have any questions, make sure you get them to Jeanette. We're going to go do a lightning speed round and get through some of these questions. The first one, how do you separate personal from business with your social media accounts? I just want to say one quick thing about that. I see a lot of professional accounts that will have the kind of disclaimer of these thoughts are my own, they're not my company's, you know what? They are your company's. I think that disclaimer is worthless. So you can put it out there and think that that means that you're protected and you can say whatever you want. If someone can make the connection that, oh, well, this person works at Washington Federal, or this person works at Starbucks, and they're saying this, you know that's going to be a story, because we'll make it a story. That's what we do, right, Yvonne? Any thoughts on the separation of personal, professional, Twitter, or any of these social media accounts? Shauna?
This comes up a decent amount, and everybody wants a hard answer to this, and it's unfortunately it's not that easy. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I'm personally really open with everything, so people can follow me on Facebook, they can follow me on Twitter, and I share there and I interact there, and I share work stuff and I share personal stuff. But I mean, I don't share my entire life. I'm not live streaming, 24/7 or anything. I don't know if any of you know Chris Perillo. He does live stream his life. But a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, and they feel like they might want to share stuff on Facebook that they don't want work people to see, work friends to see. So it really goes back to whatever you're comfortable with. I would say don't open 2 different accounts, one for work and one for personal. You're not going to be able to manage 2 different accounts, and people really want to know you and they want to know who you are to do business with you. So I would say err on the side of just having one account and being as open as you can with it.
Although I think, Shauna, people would want to know what you're doing every single minute of the day. Next question goes to, we'll have Yvonne answer this one. Does tweeting at other users too often turn off my followers? Can you tweet too much? Can you tweet too much?
If you're replying at people, if you start your Twitter with the @ symbol, the only people who are going to see that are those who are following you and the person you're speaking with. And Twitter built that in sort of so that if you were responding to a lot of people, you wouldn't look like you were tweeting too much. There is a way to tweet too much, especially if all you're doing is tweeting about yourself. That's too much, even if it's once a week. It's too much. I think we probably tweet, again, as much as we post on Facebook, if not more, but that's because people expect us to do that. I would say try it out. Twitter, I got called out when I started on Twitter about the way I was tweeting for King 5 by someone who turned out to be a great mentor to me. People will tell you if you're talking too much. If one person tells you, yeah, but if everyone's saying, hey, pipe down, or you start to see a drop in your followers, that's a good sign.
And Twitter is a platform where you can tweet, you can put posts out far more frequently than Facebook, which people don't expect that to be moving quite as often. Aaron, next question for you. As a small business with very limited staff, what tools allow you to post one comment out to various social platforms at one time?
My personal opinion is don't do that. Social media is about engaging, and if you're trying to broadcast to a wide mass audience, don't do it. Focus on one platform, do it well, exceed it, and then move on to the next once you figure that out. But if you're going to post on, for example, TweetDeck, which does that, and you're going to send it to Facebook, Twitter, I don't even know where it goes. That's something that I don't practice. And it's all about what I said earlier. It's all about engaging with your audiences. And if you're going to go engage by broadcasting to multiple channels, I'd advise against it.
I agree with that. The one tool that does allow you to do that really easily is Instagram. You can put a picture up on all 3 platforms, Twitter and Facebook, very quickly. Any do's and don'ts for businesses regarding Facebook advertising? Shauna, you want that one?
Yes, wow, there's so much to this. One of the great things with Twitter, and I would recommend everyone who is willing to spend a little bit of money to do some testing in this, because it's actually really fascinating to see what you can find, is you can target all the way down to certain types of people. So for instance, if I'm a car dealer and I have a new convertible coming out, I can target on Twitter to people who have said convertible in their bio or have tweeted about convertibles before. So it gets all the way down to that specific. So you're only paying money to be seen by people who, for instance, like convertibles. And I've had so much fun just testing with Twitter, and you have to be really careful because you can't just send messages about promotions, obviously, because then you're going to get blocked. Because what you do is you show up in their Twitter feed with all their friends, and all of a sudden there you are as a business, even though you're not following my business. So I can essentially buy my way into your Twitter feed. So it can be, if you do a good job at the writing and the editing and showing who you are as a company, and you do good at the targeting, it can be such an effective tool. At Decide, it was, being a small business, a startup, it was the number one way that we spent more money there than any other place. We couldn't scale Facebook. Twitter, we could scale with the right audience. So on Facebook, I would say the same thing. You're sort of buying your way into people's feeds, so just be really careful with what you say and the message that you put out there. One thing that we did at Decide is we had a subscription platform and a subscription model. So we would share interesting stats and data about dynamic pricing and how much prices are changing, which is what we were all about. And then once a month we would have a promotion, and we would offer $20 off our annual membership. And that worked better than any other tactic that we did. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sales as a result of just promoting that on Twitter. So if you're a small business and that's one way that you want to look at getting new clients, if you're focused on real estate, for instance, which it sounds like many of you are, I would definitely say just get on there and try it out. It doesn't take very long to try it out.
A question about Facebook. I'm going to give it to you, Yvonne, because it's something that you talked about. Explain the number of people who are talking about you. What does that mean? How is it measured? So on Facebook, you've got a post, you see the reach, and then you have a smaller number of people that are talking about you.
So Facebook determines the talking about number based on the number of likes, comments, and shares on your post. I don't pretend to know the back end of Facebook, trust me, because if I learned it, they'd just change it the next day. But it is a fairly reliable measurement of engagement. Another thing to realize when you're talking about Facebook is, Facebook has what they call, it's an algorithm. They used to call it EdgeRank. I don't know what they call it now, but they put out content in your followers and friends' feeds based on how engaging they assess it to be. So if you're running a Facebook page, the average percentage of people who like your page who will see your content is about 16%, which isn't very much. So the higher your engagement rate, the greater the percentage of people who will see your content. And this is where Facebook advertising, you can target people who already like your page and get your posts in front of more people who are already liking your page. You can get your posts in front of people who are connected to people who like your page. And you can also target, like what Shauna was talking about on Twitter, based on all kinds of factors. But that's why we look at engagement, because we know that engagement rate means that we're providing valuable content and that more people on Facebook are seeing that content.
We have a question about who do you follow back on Twitter? I'll take that one because I have a theory about following back. I think it's rude not to follow people back. So I follow back almost everybody. If you're in Seattle, I'm not following you, send me an @ message because I should be. I think it's almost like going to a party and there's a table of 5 people there and you come up to that table and you only talk to one person. And you ignore everybody else who's at that table because they just don't look interesting. I don't know, you don't feel like it. You don't want to follow them. How do you know that that one person or 2 people that you're ignoring aren't really significant and interesting and couldn't do something valuable for your life and for your business? So I follow back everybody. I think that's kind of the way the community is set up. Not everybody does. What do you guys, any thoughts on following back?
I'm the same way. I just follow as many people back. I've got this unfollow thing too, where if people are not following me back, I'll purge the system and then go back to increase following. There's apps out there that do it automatically for you. So you could unfollow people and then follow people back. But then that gets rid of like Richard Sherman, all the Seahawks players that I traditionally follow all the time. So then I just got to be careful. I haven't done that in quite some time, but
yeah, Russell Wilson's not following me back, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm still following him for sure. How do you quantify or set a budget for social media? Aaron, want to take that?
Geez, that's a loaded question.
That's why I gave it to you.
It's all about time, right? Social media is the time you put into it, and the outcome is how much time you put into it, just like anything else. So you got to budget how much time a day you're going to spend into it, and then build upon it. And we've got this theory on you should do, if you're not in it, you should probably spend, 15, 30 minutes a day in your morning, just like you're exercising, like we all should be exercising every day. Getting into a social media exercise and really building up your understanding of social media. Spend 20, 30 minutes a day just trying the various things. Over time, you will develop friends like Linda and Yvonne and Shauna that we've done over the years that builds out your portfolio.
We have just a few minutes left. I want to be mindful of your time because I know you got to get back to work today. So we're going to end with this question. I want all of our panelists to give me an answer on what can a small business do? What should their first priority be? So as they leave here today, they've heard a kind of a general discussion about social media, and hopefully we can do a more advanced one in the future. But as businesses leave here today, what's your one piece of advice that you would give them? Shauna, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so unfortunately, some companies don't even know I'm sure none of you in this room, but don't even know really what their goals are, what they want to accomplish with it. So then when you go into social with that, it's hard to know what you can get out of it if you don't even know why you're doing it, right? So if you have clear goals, if you want to get new clients, if you want to be known as a real estate expert in the field, and then you can quantify underneath that how you're gonna measure those different goals, right? So then you can go into it going, okay, well, if I want to be known in the industry, I'm going to try to reach out to, let's say, 50 people who are also into real estate. So you can follow them specifically on Twitter, connect with them, and then I would say start experimenting a little bit with promoting your updates. You don't have to spend a lot of money doing it, but that's kind of the way that I would approach it. And I would use one of my favorite tools is called Hootsuite, and it does allow you to see your different platforms and to publish to multiple if you want, which I think Aaron had a good point. It's not always a good idea. But I would say Hootsuite is a great way to start, and then just using Hootsuite for maybe 15 or 20, loading all your accounts in there, using it for 15 or 20 minutes once or twice a day is an easy way to manage your social and make sure you're not missing anything and you're following the people that you want to be following.
Aaron, as businesses leave here today, what's the one thing they should do?
So after you get your goals set, dive in. Really go to that next level, find the tools that you want, and really just start to hone in on your skills. Follow a couple people, have engaged conversations, and then start building your network. And Microsoft said it best when they started getting into social media 10 years ago or so, don't be stupid. That was their social media policy.
That came from Microsoft.
Don't be stupid. Yeah. So that was their, just the same thing applies here. Don't be stupid in social media. That keg stand that y'all did in college 20 years ago, 30 years ago is probably online somewhere. Just clean that up and move forward.
Yvonne, as businesses leave here today, what should they do? One thing.
You should know your community. And if you don't know your community, you should ask them to tell you about what's important to them. Because as any successful business person knows, no matter what your business is, your community is what drives your success. So let them in on the conversation. Ask them what they want more of, less of, from your social media presence and from your business across the board. We're all just people. Just talk to them like they're people, and they'll tell you.
I think the one thing you should do as you leave here today, two things actually. 3. I'll make it 4, but they're really quick. They're really super quick. 1 is listen to Cairo News Radio tomorrow morning, 97.3 FM. 2 is go to mynorthwest.com, check them out. 3, check out Washington Federal, invested here. They're our sponsors today, I thank you. And the final thing is, I would say, get on Twitter. It is the easiest social media platform to use. It's very simple. Put your business on it, send out a few tweets, and figure out how to connect to your consumers. And just realize social media is fun. We've kind of had a serious tone here today, but social media is fun. And the value of it will go beyond what I can even talk about today. I can't tell you about the relationships that you're going to develop over the next year because you got a social media account, because you got on Twitter. I know they're going to be there. And I know that you can tweet me in a couple of months or so and say, hey, I met this person because of social media. Thank you. It just happens. It is the reality. And I thank you for being here at Zero to Social today. If you have questions, if we didn't get to your question, my outstanding panelists will stay here for a few more minutes and answer those. So thank you very much today for being here.